Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hopefully you can hear me and see me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We'll get started in a minute. Let's just wait for some likes and for some people to join us. If you can hear me okay, see me okay, like would be nice. All right. One, two, three. Hopefully all is okay. Facebook has a new um, app or screen or for a live, so hopefully it's working okay. It's been a while. We'll get started in about 20 seconds, 30 seconds. We'll get started. So bear with me. Very good. All right, let's get started. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me for another live session. Or if you're listening on the recording, quite a few people tell me that they don't get to participate on the live, but definitely watch it afterwards. Just so we are clear, this is being broadcast primarily on Facebook Live, but at the same time, it's going on YouTube with all our videos. We have hundreds of videos of YouTube and on our podcast as well. My name is Dani Beit-Or, and when I do those short or longer speaking up, opportunities, I definitely try to bring content and bring valuable information. Your comments, your questions are most welcome. And if you're here, listening, hearing, a like would be nice, so I can know that everything is fine. I have taken a bit of a break during this COVID-19 situation, so it was a bit of a breather from the live session. We usually hold it on every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, California time, and I decided that after about 3 weeks of a break to resume. By the way, I did not take any break from activity. On the contrary, it's been a very hectic 3, 4 weeks. Many things happening in multiple directions. So things are far from being boring um, or quiet on my end. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to potentially divide it up to you guys for two parts. Part one, we're going to talk about the topic of management or property management in a second. We'll start about that. Part two, if you have anything that you want to ask specifically related to the COVID-19 opportunities, what to do, how to do, property management wise, buying wise, selling wise, we can definitely try and do that as well. So part two, we can talk a little bit about what's going on nowadays. If you have any questions or kind of want to kind of have a discussion about it, but that will only happen if you guys are engaging and having questions and comments, etc. If we are going to be quiet today, then we're just going to go through the topic of management, and we'll take it from there. So first of all, thank you for taking the time for listening, watching, live, recording. We are here to educate, provide advice, help, direct, guide, however you want to call it, all about real estate investing. I have been investing in real estate personally since 2002. I have started working and helping other investors invest in real estate, multiple U.S. metros since 2004. That gives me the badge, if you want to call it. I don't even know how to phrase it. The badge of crash survivor, the 2008, or crash survivor beneficiary from the 2008 crash. So I definitely been through that. When that happened, I was definitely in the eye of the storm on a personal level with my investors. So a lot of knowledge and information and experience gained from that 2008, 9, 10 period, to the extent that I probably rebuilt my business from scratch in 2010, 11, just because I decided that everything before that was not strong enough. The foundation before the crash was not tight enough or strong or resilient enough. So I decided to really build everything from scratch. I'm not going to talk about that today. What we're going to talk about is related to property management. And the reason I decided to do this topic is because, as simple as it may sound, I get a question about the property management or the management, let's call it the management, very frequently. Earlier this week, one of the potential new clients said, but what happens after I purchase the house? Literally, what's going to happen after I purchase the house? What is required for me? How do I know, who to trust and what to work with? His decision making about investing was kind of stuck or held back because of the management. So he knew that's an issue. He knew that's a challenge. He didn't know how he can solve it. And he said, there's no point for me moving forward until I at least understand there is a proper solution in place, proper practices in place. And this is where I want to emphasize that I'm not going to tell you what all the solutions out there and what you can do out there. I'm just going to tell you what I or us at Simply Do It decided to do in order to address this major concern. And no doubt it is a major concern and a quite critical one in the process. So I'm going to skip very, very fast. I'm going to say, congrats. Let's just assume for a second, congrats. You own a rental property, let's just say in Dallas, Texas, and you are the proud owner of a nice single family home in a nice community with good schools that cost you $175,000. And now what? Now, we all, when we talk about property managers, we all hear the horror stories that people tell us, right or wrong, true or not, common practice or rare events. We just always hear the bad stories. We don't really hear any good stories in this field. Property managers, from my experience, always are always between the rock and the hard place. On one hand, they want to please the client for the most part, not all of them, but most of them do. And then they have a client that has the owner that has demands. They have a tenant that have demands or needs or wants. And there's a house, and the house has its own, let's just call it character, right? So it's like a 3 different vectors. The house, wear and tear or situation, tenant, whatever's going in their life, COVID-19 or not, and an owner that wants more update, less update, this, that, whatever, right? Decision, etc. So that's a very noisy situation. And by the way, in the middle of it is a property manager, right? So this is a very noisy situation to understand. And one of the conversation I had this week with one of my clients is that they, for some reason, in their mind, expected a smooth sale, no noise, no issues whatsoever. Although I always tell all my clients, every opportunity I get to speak like this, one-on-one, when I do lectures, there is going to be noise in the system. There's going to be noise in the system, right? Noise in the system means you will have evictions, right? Doesn't necessarily happen every year. It really depends on the type of property you're buying. Evictions will be there. There's going to be wear and tear, right? Something breaks. There's going to be some issues with the tenant one way or another, meaning, someone forgot to send the rent. That happens, right? I'm not talking about today, COVID-19, period. Put that aside. That has nothing to do, with all of it. That's just situation that we're going through on a normal basis, right? A tenant lost their job. They can't pay right now. They want to work it out. Whatever. That's called noise in the system, right? So vacancies between tenants, evictions sometimes, depending on the type, primarily depending on the type of property, repairs, maintenance, and communication with the property managers, right? You speak to the property manager about the situation. You tell the property manager one thing, and they do another thing, similar but not exactly what your intents were, and then you're disappointed, that you're mad, and it ended up costing you $200 more than you should have. Noise in the system, right? So if you're an owner or an owner to be, and you're saying, I hate noise and I don't want to deal with it, this is not for you. Don't do that. But if you're saying, wait, okay, there's noise in the system, and I accept it. By the way, I accept it. I hate it. I don't love it, but I accept it because I see the bigger picture. I see how rental property can benefit me, right? So that's the bigger picture, and I accept it, with the noise in the system, and that's something that comes with the territory. The whole point of a property manager is to reduce that noise level as much as possible, right? It's not going to eliminate it, but if we're talking about 100% noise when we do it by ourselves, we may reduce it to 10%, 90% reduction of noise because the tenant is taking care of the property manager is taking care of most of the noise. Now, for me, from my world of real estate, my ecosystem of real estate, here is how I decided to tackle this aspect of property management and provide as much as possible, as more noise reduction, should I call it, to our clients. The way I decided to tackle it is actually there's multiple layers and multiple vectors in order to address it, in order to get to that point. So number one, we try to go and buy quality properties in good areas. I call it the lower middle class, the middle class, the upper middle class, right? Just by going to those areas, there's a very good chance we're going to eliminate a lot of the noise that comes with tenants, on the lower income bracket. Okay. By the way, side note, today, COVID-19 days, right? We are seeing this decision, a part of the formula, being much more resilient than other categories, right? So today, we have a pressure test on our system, on our formula, and it's holding its ground, right? It doesn't mean it will survive it completely. We still have to see what's going on. But right now, May 1st, right? The rents for May have not started coming in, or just about started coming in. I'm talking about from mid-March to the end of April. The number of defaults that are reported through the property managers is very small relatively to the number of properties. Even most of those defaults are being addressed or handled or renegotiated or retermed, maybe you should say, with the tenants. Not all of them, but very few, a handful of properties are really in a bad shape because of the situation. And by the way, in two of those cases, those were tenants that we already had problem with them before, and it just got worse, right? They are taking advantage of the situation of the times. So for the most part, as much as we can say, the formula of going after the middle class tiers is showing its strength, it's resilient during this time, right? So number one is targeting the right type of property, okay? Number two, newer properties, 1980, 1990, and after, for the most part, right? Again, that gives us an opportunity to have less issues, less problem with the house, right? More modern, more updated, more recent, so to speak. So that's another one. Small, I don't know if small, big decisions that are affecting, our lives as investors. Number three is the property management. Okay. Now, I have been doing this for such a long time, for 16 years plus. I've been involved in the purchase and sale of more than 4,500 rental properties in multiple U.S. markets, right? So I have that bandwidth of experience. What I decided to do in my world of real estate, okay, when I work with my clients, is this. When I work with property managers, I take my time, and that's a lot of time, to carefully, deeply, vet them, investigate them, check them, make sure I'm lining up the right people for the job, right? The right people for the job. And the right people doesn't mean, a lot of investors, when they look at the property managers, they're focusing on one thing: fees. Fees are important, okay? But let me tell you something. If you run a rental properties and it's rented for $1,000 a month, let's just say as a round number, and the one property manager charges 8% and another one charges 6%, how much of a difference is it? It's such a small number, and look at what you're probably losing here. I rather pay the 8%, assuming I have the right person, versus the 6%, assuming maybe or may not. A few years ago, I interviewed some guy, property manager, and he told me he's charging 5%. 5% in this industry, and again, I'm not talking about every single market in the country, but for the most part, 5% in this industry is very low. Probably the more expensive rents in California and maybe in New York can sustain the 5%. But for the most part, you will see anywhere from 7 to 10%. It was common practice. And you know what? I even had one of my investors tell me, you know what, Danny, I'd rather pay my property manager, the guy you brought on, 12%. But for 12%, I want complete quiet. Don't call me, don't bother me, don't nothing. But I'd rather pay 12%, even more than what's coming, for more peace of mind, right? Just as an example. So don't be attracted to the fee. The fee, a 1% here and there is not gonna make or break the transaction. A bad property manager will guarantee. I've seen it. So I take the time. Danny, Simply Do It, my company, we take the time to vet carefully property managers deeply, and to line up the right people. Now, when we work with property managers, after I go through a very lengthy process, and it's still, my process is not perfect, and it's not guaranteed there won't be any issues, right? We're dealing with people. But to date, I have seen that, I have never met the crook property manager in our system. I have met the crooks, but not in our system, right? Met the incompetence, or the ones that were not doing a good job communication-wise, or accounting-wise, or something, right? Something changed on their end. So those things do happen. For the past 16 years, I should say, the past 10 years, I have fired one property management company. Not bad people, good people, nice people. They were very disappointed. Communication, was poor. There was a huge disconnect between the head office and the field, and that doesn't, and when the investors of mine suffer, I'm not okay with that. So what do I mean by how do I tackle this? Well, first of all, I tackle it by carefully vetting property management. That's one. Number two is that every client of ours, when they work with that property manager, they become immediately what we call like a VIP status, because we have buying power. Our buying power enables us to get better fees, so we get discount for our clients. That's a nice perk, right? Again, nothing dramatic, just a nice little perk. And on the top of that, we get the property manager to do few more tasks that we ask him to do, that are not common in the area of real estate in the United States, right? But we get our property managers get, more involved, do extra assignment either for free or for a discount, or something they wouldn't normally even do, and they would do it. Why they do it? Very simple. They say, here's a big account. They're going to bring tens of, dozens of, or more, or more properties into my system, right? I might as well take good care of them. I might as well make sure these guys are pleased and happy, and whatever I can do to help, that's good, because that's good for my business, right? So these guys are saying, okay, we get it. And very quickly, Simply Do It becomes the biggest account with that property management company. And when you are our client, part of the biggest account of one property management company, guess what? Do you think that would help you, or that will harm you? Of course it will help you. It will help you just by, when you call, they know you are part of Simply Do It, and they will treat you better. Even if you have one property, a single property with them, automatically you are in an elevated status. You can think, they would never admit it, by the way. The property manager would never say, oh, we treat everybody as VIPs. Right, agreed. Let me tell you something. Some will get a preferred treatment, not as preferred treatment in the sense of discriminating or anything like that. They will just give it a little bit more attention, or they will just take, cut it a little bit more. And on the top of that, when you have a problem with the property manager, big problem or small problem, you will let us know, and we will get involved, which I do almost on a weekly basis. And I call property managers, and I, help resolve the problem, because I know I've been around, I'm experienced. And those guys, when they hear my voice, they usually try to accommodate, because they want to please me. I am very pleasable if my clients are pleasable, right? And if that's not the case, then I'm not happy. If I'm not happy, they're not happy about it, and they want to correct it, because there's always this hover, right, that we may go elsewhere, which happened, right? It did happen, and I know, and I make sure they know it did happen. But for the most part, it's a rare incident, right? So sometimes, to emphasize that point, one of the property managers that I call, this guy manages their company is maybe 800 properties, right? And he's a super nice guy. We've been working for years together. When I call, he always picks up the phone and says, "Yes, boss. What can I do for you?" I'm not his boss. I'm not his employer. But that's the mindset, because he knows this guy is responsible for their biggest account by far. He doesn't have even a second account as big as ours. So you will get that. You will benefit. You will inherit this relationship status, which is very, very powerful. Because guess what? I had a situation where there was some misunderstanding between, multiple times, but there one that I can remember. There was a misunderstanding between an owner and the property management, and they were going back and forth, and I'm in the middle. Eventually, I knew this is not gonna. It has to stop, right? So what did I do? First of all, I called my client. I said, "Okay, let's resolve this. What do you want to do?" We worked through everything, and we decided what would be an ideal for him course of action or a result. And I told him, my relationship with you and Simply Do It is a critical one for us, and it's well worth it beyond $600. So I'm gonna definitely do that, and I definitely understand that, where the tension is coming from, and we can move on with our life. Done deal, just like that. In a 7 minutes conversation, and the issue is resolved. The owner and the property manager went about it for probably 2 weeks, back and forth, emails, phone calls. I'm in the middle, but then I stepped in, and I decided that it's just enough. This is something that, I wouldn't say it's common, but I see it. I see it every once in a while, and sometimes it only requires a phone call for me to sort things out. Right? Maybe there's some tension being built. Even just this morning, there was some tension about a property being built. I called the property manager. I spoke to him this morning, Friday morning, and I said, "Okay, what can we do here?" And he said, "You know what? This is not my fault that what happened here with this situation, but I fully understand that it is my responsibility. I'm gonna step in and take care of it, or do this or do that, whatever." And he offered is some reimbursement for the owner. So that just this morning happened in a very calm, very relaxing environment. No friction. Although there's some tension already being built. So that those things do happen. And excuse me, when you are as an owner asking yourself, how am I going to be able to make sure the property manager is a good property manager, or the property manager treats me well, or when things will happen friction wise, I'm not going to be held, with a big, like a bill in my hand and very clueless. And the only way I was able to solve it, the following: come work with us. We provide that umbrella of support, umbrella of decisions, umbrella of clout and power with those service providers, and that will help. That will not guarantee no issues, but that will definitely help with solving them, avoiding them, solving them, and maybe quickly eliminating when they come up. I still want you to understand, we are not super magicians. We are good at what we do, and we're very with if problems. before they happen. And when they do happen, or friction or miscommunications, they do happen. We're good at resolving them. Is it the guarantee that there's not going to be issues? No, it's not. There are going to be issues. That's the guarantee, right? Not necessarily major issues, right? I don't have horror stories. I do hear about horror stories. Not that will protect me from not feeling lost or powerless when I have a single property with some property manager who has 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 properties under management, and I'm just nothing. The simple answer is exactly this. Be part of the group. The group power will empower you even with a single property. Not to mention that things that will happen during the ownership period or situation, questions, when my clients come to me and say, listen, the property manager suggested I don't put carpets, but I put, hardwood floors or tiles. What do you think? Just run that idea. It's not that complicated. There's always something going on, and it's always good to have some other person, expert you can run to, and you can, decide on a tenant, on an application, on a situation, all of those things. That's part of what we provide our clients. So this is how we tackle this. We tackle this by buying power, by knowledge, by clear formula, by going about it in a safe manner, not in a speculative manner. Okay, very, very simple. And you know what? I don't want to say to speak out of place, but there's a very good, there's a part of me right now that's going through this period, and I'm saying, whew, the formula that I knew it's going to work is working, is holding, is more resilient. It's not bulletproof, but it's more resilient, especially during these times. That's very, very important, right? Very, very important. So, I'll give you an example. For years, since Vegas is an area I don't like. It doesn't follow my formula. Very simple. It doesn't follow my formula. So Vegas for me was always unattractive. I have a friend who manages 1,500 properties in Vegas. 1,500 he manages, right? And we spoke as soon as this whole situation kind of broke, and he says, now I get it. When we sat in November, we sat in Phoenix in a convention and spoke, and you told me, what's your concern about Vegas? I didn't, I thought about it, but I didn't kind of internalize it. I get it now. I see exactly what you're talking about. I see exactly why you are not, you don't like Vegas. And you know what? Honestly, over the years, I've seen how people are succeeding in Vegas. Do you think I wasn't tempted to kind of break my own formula and go to Vegas? Absolutely, many times. And then I always kind of completed the thought cycle and came back and said, no. Why? It doesn't follow those resilience items that I'm looking for in a metro. So Vegas, I know a lot of people made a lot of money there, and that's okay. For me, it's not just the return, it's also the resilience of the market, the resilience of the investment, because I know, and I knew something like this would happen. Statistically, we can't avoid it. It's happening. Okay, so it doesn't mean a catastrophe, doesn't mean the end of the world. But now, when I call most of my clients already to check up on them, only few are saying, hey, we have an issues. By the way, I'm one of those. I already sorted out. I am one of my tenants. Yeah, there is some issue started, and we already sorted out. We'll see today. The rent is due today. So this is what I want to share with you, how not to always have a solution when it comes to property management, but how you can do it on your own end in terms of vetting carefully. And if you're working with a network like ours, it will add more safety, security mechanism on the top of your individual investment or individual owner. Right? So the group, the herd, you should say, the buying power benefits the single investor. Very, very clear. Now, with that said, I am done with what I wanted to cover today. Hopefully, the background noise is not disturbing too much. Hopefully, it'll go away in a second. If there are any questions related to the topic, I'll be very happy to take them now. If there are actually questions related to the COVID-19, something related to it, I'll be happy to address that as well. I don't know So what's going to happen? I don't have a crystal ball. I have some common sense. I have some logic. I have some ideas. I think there's some benefits of, benefits for the person who wants to buy now. There's a lot of benefits there. And I see a question coming in. Hi, Danny. Two questions. What do you check and ask as part of your due diligence for PMs? Simple answer, I have a very long list of questions, and it's very detailed and not, I wouldn't say complicated, but complex. There's complexity to it. And I have to admit that part of what I have learned over the years, as much as I share a lot of information, some tricks I keep close to chest. So I hope you can respect that. It took me years, many mistakes, a lot of stress and money lost to build that questionnaire, which when I talk to a property manager, a possible candidate, more of an advanced stage candidate of property management, it's anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hour conversation, just one, to get to that kind of decision. So thank you for the question. What matters most when you already have few first properties with a new PM and you consider adding more properties to his management? What matters most? Well, if you already have a few, first of all, the first thing to me that matters is that you are pleased. I'm not saying happy. I'm not saying, no issues. Again, you're okay with bringing more properties to this company. If you're not, and you're bringing in another company, that may be an opportunity to kind of compare another company and see if they can be a better service to you. So that's, first of all, I would say, make sure you're happy. Now, if you're happy and you add more properties with your portfolio with one property management company, that can benefit you. And how would this benefit you? I would say the following: contact that property manager, say, listen, I don't know the number. Let's just say you have 3 and you're bringing 2 more. So you say, listen, I have 3 with you. I'm bringing 2 more. I wanted to see with you, where can you help me, right? Where can you give me a little bit of a discount? You're building your little buying power. And the areas that you can usually, request is maybe instead of 10%, 9% on management fee, for example. Maybe on a listing fee, some discount. If there's a renewal fee, a discount, right? If there's some service fee they charge, a discount. So you go through all the fees that they charge and say, here are the areas that if the owner doesn't suggest, I like to let that property manager first suggest and then ask for more, or ask or just agree with it, and then just ask for some discounts. That's first of all. Now, if you are not pleased with, let's say overall you're pleased, but there's 1 or 2 areas that continue to be often sore of a problem, just say, listen, I want to talk to you, and I just want to say, as a feedback, this is not being handled properly, in my opinion, right? And this is not being handled properly, and this is what I would suggest. This is more important for me as a feedback to you, because you're a service provider, as your client, that I want to make sure I get that, better service, and also because I'm bringing more properties in and I need to know this is resolved properly. Okay, so you kind of put a combination of those things. So those are the items I would consider. If you are unhappy with this person, and I'm not saying, remember, it's a very tricky question when asking about property management. I'm not sure anybody is very happy about the property manager ever, or if they're happy now, it will change sometime in the future. So if you are acceptably okay with it, let's just put it this way, because property managers, to say I love my property manager, I don't know anyone who can say that. So what I want you to say is, like, you're saying, okay, he's doing a fairly good job. I want to continue working with him. Fine. If you're questionable about it, doubting, that would be an opportunity to try someone else, and maybe then consolidate one way or another. Okay, just to keep in mind. Thank you for the question. Very good one. Do we have other questions? Okay, that's fine. If you watch this after the fact, after the live, please feel free to put comments and questions there. And always, you can always also contact me directly on Facebook or all over the web. We have a channel on YouTube with 400, I don't know, maybe 500 videos. I don't remember exactly, right? Like a lot of content. So out there, we have a podcast in English, a podcast in Hebrew, with many chapters or many episodes uploaded, including this one. So you are most welcome to consume the information, however suits you. Send questions over, and if you wanna invest, right? Well, we're all doing it for investing, and you're a little bit hesitant or not sure, easy. Let me know. Let's talk. Let's talk. No string attached. No sales pitch, right? I guarantee. We're going to talk for half an hour, 45 minutes, clear some items that are bugging you or you're not sure. And then we see if there's a good fit between what you want to accomplish and what we're doing. And we may come to the conclusion it's not a perfect fit, and that's okay. And we may come to the conclusion that we should work together. That's okay too. So by means, you feel free to reach out and explore, engage with me if we should even consider going into a long-term relationship of helping you buying rental properties. With that said, I want to thank you for watching, for listening, for sticking. Have a terrific rest of your day. Have a great weekend. And of course, stay safe and stay healthy. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.